something's going to happen along the lines of a Robin Hood tax if we are vigilant, if we're paying attention. And the reason is the following. Most importantly, we need the money. We do not have the public revenues out of our current tax system to be able to provide the absolutely needed goods and services from the public sector. The idea that we're going to close our deficits only by cuts of spending is unimaginable, actually, if we're going to remain civilized. And so we need revenues. That's number one. That's why this is going to happen, actually. Second is the financial sector itself is undertaxed. It's also out of control still. After nearly bringing down the world economy in the last 2 years, we still have a spectacle that is of such staggering arrogance that I find it hard to imagine. Our bankers on Wall Street took home, they make the rules, they take the decisions, and they decide on the compensation. They took home $20 billion of end-of-year bonuses out of my money. It's not all mine, but it's mine and my fellow citizens because we bailed them out and they put the money in their pocket. And this was all viewed with a straight face. Unfortunately, also by the Washington politicians, viewed as if that's normal. But of course, the Washington politicians get their campaigns paid for by the same people. So the money is spread around nicely. Now, what's extraordinary is that in the midst of this downturn, Wall Street had its most profitable year in history, it seems. The estimate of the New York comptroller last week was of a $55 billion profit year for Wall Street. Now, where'd that come from in the midst of the biggest downturn since the Great Depression? It came from the fact that Wall Street is literally next door to the Fed. And the Fed turned on the spigots this year and essentially gave zero interest money to the insider banks in vast amounts for them to relend and make vast trading profits. That's called seigniorage, in essence, in economics. It's the privilege of income that comes from the right to print money. But that seigniorage is normally in our textbooks collected by government, but here it's in essence being distributed to a few financial houses who then declare that they're doing God's work and pocket the money in tens of billions of dollars of compensation and bonuses. And we're supposed to sit back and say, oh, no, you can't touch that. That's a fragile, that's a fragile leaf and shouldn't be taxed and so forth, as we're bleeding in public revenues right now. So that's my second proposition, which is we need money, and you can see where the money can be gotten in part, and that's from an undertaxed and still vastly underregulated financial sector. Third, we're not meeting our global obligations. And so whatever we can do to direct that revenue towards solemn commitments that we took actually in this country 5 years ago in a wonderful public outpouring of responsibility that has not been followed through by our politicians generally, we need to do as well. You'll remember that in Glen Eagles, because of the Make Poverty History campaign, because of the farsightedness of the people of this country, because of commitments that were finally recognized to be in not only an urgent need, but a self-interest as well, we promised something rather basic, not even generous enough, but the promise was that from the time of Glen Eagles till today, we would double the amount of financial assistance to Africa. That was roughly an extra $30 billion. What's actually happened? We're about $20 billion short of that promise. Well, I know where to get $20 billion. We just saw it go into the pockets of the least deserving people who are worried mainly about whether their wine cellars have 20,000 bottles, 30,000 bottles, or 40,000 bottles, whereas people who are dying because they don't have the most basics in life are only, whether they're aware that the promises are made or only aware of the fact that their child is hungry again today, I don't know. It all depends. But they are suffering at our lack of basic follow-through. So here we have revenues that need to be collected. Here we have clear responsibilities. We're not talking about a penny, as far as I'm concerned, of new promises for anything. It's only a matter of following through on solemn life and death commitments that we made and have not fulfilled. And putting these together, in my view, makes complete sense. It makes further sense for this country, by the way, for the following reason. By adopting this proposal, the UK and colleagues in Europe can and should lean on my country quite hard and say, you get on the case too. This is a matter of harmonization of policy, and it's also a matter of burden sharing. Where did this financial crisis start? It started in Wall Street. Where is the biggest unmet or unfulfilled obligation on development assistance? It's in the United States. And so one part of this campaign that is extremely important, in my view, is not to say, oh, I wonder what the United States is going to do, but rather to say, we need to collect revenues, we need to follow through, we need to do this in a harmonized way, and you, the United States, need to be part of this now. And you have to pony up, because it's not right for Europe to be taking on, and thank goodness, still, even in this very hard time, continuing on its obligations towards 0.7, and the United States doing nothing of the kind. And so I view this campaign, and the final piece of it is as a way also to bring in a global shared responsibility. This is a global campaign. It says that we're going to follow through on international obligations with proper burden sharing, and we're going to make sure that a global industry, the global financial industry, in a harmonized way is taxed adequately to be playing its role. And we're not going to continue in a world, I hope, where bankers brazenly smirk as they pocket unconscionable amounts of money, of our money, direct bailout money, and we fail to live up to the most basic and essential obligations that we've made for a decent world. And that's why I'm happy to be here today.